Welcome to the Exam Room Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hey, I'm the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, joined today by an MMA legend, a UFC Hall of Famer, and a man who may want to add a third M to MMA, an M that stands for mushrooms. With that, we are welcoming Rashad Evans for the first time to the Exam Room. Great to see you, Rashad. Thanks for being here.
Chuck, my man, what's going on? Thank you for having me in the exam room, and I appreciate it. And I look forward to the discussion.
Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time for being here. I have so many questions for you, including about mushrooms. But really, I think that the question that we get most often when we have a professional athlete on the show is, do you feel like when you switched over to a plant-based diet, you lost a little bit of that edge? And on top of that, with you, I mean, do you feel like maybe some of that aggression that you had in the octagon as a fighter kind of fell off when you took meat out of your diet, Rashad?
No, it didn't really affect me in that kind of way as far as like my intensity and my mindset towards fighting. It actually increased it because I felt a lot better. And when I felt a lot better, I had more energy to do the things that I really wasn't able to do when I was so inflamed and when I had a lot of meat in my diet. Um, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, meat doesn't work for me. I feel weak." But for me, meat felt like taking it out of my diet. I felt even better, and putting things in my diet like spirulina, chlorella, and eating a lot of greens and just up in my greens a lot, up in the fruit intake, all of that. It just gave me an energy that just allowed me to go at a pace that I was actually surprised at. I would go into the gym after I haven't trained in weeks as far as at a highest level, and I would go in there and be able to compete with these guys that are getting ready for fights. So I was really surprised, and it was like the biggest nod to myself that I'm doing things that that was really good for my body. I mean, there is that like the ego thing that happens because when you change your diet a little bit, your body composition changes. People are like, oh man, you looking skinny, but I was kind of really around the same weight. It's just that my body, the composition changed a little bit, and it just made me look like I was a lot thinner, but I was just carrying it differently.
Yeah, you fought at heavyweight. Do you think that had you during your fighting days still been eating a plant-based diet, you would have maintained heavyweight, or would you have dropped down a weight class or two?
Well, so I started off at heavyweight. That was when I first came into the UFC. I was heavyweight, but then I dropped down to light heavyweight, and I was able to maintain that light heavyweight range. And I was kind of small, but I felt as if like even when I was fighting and being on the smaller end of the light heavyweights, I still had to cut weight pretty hard. And if I would have been able to take care of my diet and understand like I had such a an abusive like user relationship with my body where it was all about using it to get ready for this camp, but then after the camp was over I wouldn't downshift, I wouldn't do the things that I needed to do to get my body in good health and good position to recover. And I found so much out after I started to change my diet just about when you put a little bit, more attention to what you put into your body, it really changes just the whole, everything that you're feeling. And I felt way better.
Yeah, and let me ask you this, because I heard you talk about this on the Joe Rogan podcast a few years ago, and it was interesting because at the time you were in there, you're sitting there, you're sipping on, I think, a spirulina drink or something like
Yeah.
that, and he's telling you how he's actually eating an entirely meat diet at that point, and you're talking about coming at this from two completely different angles.
Yeah.
But like your recovery, I would imagine if you and Joe were to have gone into the gym, had a sparring session, I would imagine your recovery from that would have been much different than his.
Yeah, I imagine so too. And I say that, not to throw any shade on Joe, but it's just, what I've been able to feel from just having a plant-based diet is the recovery comes back so fast, but also the endurance on top of that. I don't have that lactic acid buildup. I still get, of course, lactic acid when I, get into the anaerobic activities and things like that, but it doesn't completely flush me out. It doesn't completely just take over my body and leave me in a place where I'm just so depleted that I started to have that deep fatigue that makes it hard for you to stand when you're competing.
And I think one of the things that you also said on that show with Joe, it stood out to me. She said, "I train less, but I train harder." What's the difference there? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so the duration, I'm not gonna go in there and I'm not gonna stay in there for like 2 hours like I would before. I'll go in there and I hit it like hard, and I may need to hit like maybe a 30 minute or a 40 minute exercise, and then I'm done. And I don't need to go that deep into it because I'm working so efficiently, because when I'm doing it, I'm already starting at such a high level, and my pace and that I'm keeping the whole time I'm doing it is a lot higher than I would have been if when I was having a lot of the meat in my diet that really caused the inflammation that kind of slowed me down, where I need to take breaks and I wouldn't be able to set such a high pace.
Let me ask you this flat out. Do you think that had you been eating a plant-based diet during your career, you still would have been able to attain the level of success that you did?
I think so. I really think so, because I'll tell you that in respects to one camp in particular, that I was more plant based than anything, and that was my second fight with Tito Ortiz. I think it was UFC 133. I was primarily plant based during that whole camp. For some reason, my body was going through some changes during that camp, and I had like a stomach bug, and I came back, and when I came back from the stomach bug, I really couldn't eat meat. So out of nowhere and out of desperation, I made me a smoothie, and I put like some spinach and some green apples and all this into a blender, and I blended it up and I drank it. And the energy that I felt was just like, whoa, what was that? So I started to do it all the time, and I got in better shape than I ever got into any fight. Like I was just like super, super cut up and stuff like that going into the fight. And I would get to the point where I would go to the store and get a bag of spinach and just start eating it like it was chips. But my body was absorbing it, and my body was starting to change, and it felt good. So, and during that fight, I felt strong. I felt stronger than I ever felt, but I also felt that mental intensity. Like I was vicious out there.
And were you like actively thinking about, am I still getting enough protein? Because I know that, especially again for athletes who put a premium on protein,
Yeah.
when they first switch over to a plant-based diet, that's a big concern. And you're having a huge fight on pay-per-view against Tito Ortiz at that point. So I mean, how are you really focusing on making sure you're still getting enough protein? How did you navigate those waters at first?
Well, when I started to look into it and really started to do the deep dive, and I started to do the research, and through the research and understanding what the plant-based diet is, and truly understanding how protein, what it does in your body, and how your body, makes your own protein just from the branch chain amino acids that it has in it, I realized that I don't need to eat the protein in order to get the protein. I just need to have the right groundwork as far as amino acids is concerned, and everything that are the building blocks for the protein, in order for my protein to be to be where I need it to be. Because I feel like we're a little bit crazy in the protein. We got to get protein, we got to get protein, but the truth of the matter is, a lot of people may disagree, but our cells, you know, they don't consume protein. They consume glucose, and when you have to, when you have to eat the protein, it has to break down in the liver and all those things to get turned into glucose, and it's a longer process. So I felt the bioavailability of just being able to have the amino acids in my body to make my own protein. It suited my body better.
Man, you looked at the research that's done by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Christopher Gardner, California guy. He is super smart. He is like the king of protein and showing how it is just like in basically everything that we eat, and you can get plenty of it. And he kind of subscribes to your theory as well that we're really making way too much of this whole protein debate.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know who that guy is, but I've been studying. I've been on the books, because I really couldn't follow the diet and understand the diet and the importance of it and hold myself accountable by it. Just from somebody telling me to do it. I really had to dive deep, and I really had to make myself a student of just eating and just what I should put into my body. And once I did that, it was easy for me to keep the diet because I was able to understand that, okay, if I eat these foods, I'm not gonna feel the way I need to feel. And people say, "Do you ever get? Is it ever hard for you to make the right decisions to eat?" And I'm like, "Well, so I don't. I eat for a feeling. I eat to feel a certain way. And when I know when I'm eating right, I know I'm gonna feel that way. I know if I don't eat right, I'm not gonna feel the way that I like to feel."
Absolutely, man. And it's funny, you were talking about grabbing that bag of spinach and eating it like it's chips. I heard something similar from a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Will Bolsowitz. He wrote this book called Fiber Fueled. If you haven't read it, you should definitely
Yeah.
check that one out as long as you're on a book trip. But he's like, he used to eat that standard American fast food diet every day. And he's like, one day I drank a smoothie and it was like my body just told me this is what I needed. And it sounds like
Yes.
you had that same reaction. Your body just naturally was like, thank you for listening, finally.
You're absolutely right, and that was the most shocking part to me about my whole spinach, my whole spinach trip during that time was the fact that I stumbled upon it by accident, just because I was trying to find something to soothe my stomach, and then when I ate it, my body told me like, yes, this is what you need, and it gave me that because of the energy that I was able to feel. I just felt like I haven't felt in a long time. Honestly, when I first started eating meat, I mean, stopped eating meat and started eating the plant food, the plant-based diet, I didn't know that I could feel that good. I didn't know that my breathing can feel that good. I didn't know how my body was supposed to feel. And when I felt my body like that for the first time, I'm just like, whoa, okay, so this is how my body's supposed to feel. And I just been eating for that feeling ever since.
Yeah, it's wild how feeling normal feels incredible because most of us have no idea what normal even feels like these days.
Right.
We really don't.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly it. Is being able to be able to find like what is your normal? What does that feel like? Because you inherit these eating habits from growing up, right? And then at some point, as you get older, you figure out what you like and what you don't like, and then you fall into your same diet. But for me, I couldn't continue to eat the same thing I did at 20 years old and 25 years old and 30 years old as I do as a 40-year-old. My body changed, and my body was changing at such a rate that it kind of forced me to like, I lost the taste for meat. That's just basically it. I lost the taste for meat, and it was weird because my body was like, before I started to change my diet, I was getting sick, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I had like a really bad stomach issue where I would only be able to eat once a day, and I just didn't feel good. But once I stopped, I started to fast and started to clean everything up. My body just did a complete 180, and I couldn't believe how good my body was feeling. I'm like, oh, so this is what I'm supposed to feel like. Oh, this is what it feels like to not have this much inflammation. And when I woke up in the middle of the night, I didn't have to wake up in pieces because I didn't have the inflammation in my feet and my knees and in my back. I woke up feeling like I was like 17 years old.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely incredible. Are you still fasting now? Or are you doing like a 18 6 window, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I usually do it around it. Like, I don't usually eat my first meal until about 1 o'clock, and that's when, it's an easy way for me to just allow my body to have the allow it to clean itself out. Because my another one of my philosophies is like, you know, we're taught about consumption, and it seems to be that's the mainstay in our minds when it comes to health. But it's really about elimination in a lot of ways, because it's all about being able to keep the body fluid and keeping everything so there's nothing that's binding or nothing convoluted, and it allows the body to just flow naturally. And when you allow your body to flow just through being able to have it being clean, you don't get the septic feeling that you may have sometimes when you're just in that space where you're just eating and consuming and consuming.
Yeah, All right. I want to ask you about mushrooms in just a second, but before we
Yeah.
get there, because we definitely have to talk about Umbo, but I got to know, true or false, somebody told me that after you went vegan, you actually really kind of developed almost a passion for cooking and you became pretty good in the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah, that's right. I because of the fact that when I first changed my diet, my wife used to cook everything for me, and she wasn't on that path. And then I got to the point where I liked my food a certain kind of way, so I figured out a way to make the food the best way that I like to make it, and I taught myself all kinds of plant-based diet foods because that was the hardest thing for me when it came to being able to make this transition. And this is what a lot of people have a hard time with when it comes to sustaining a plant-based diet, is the fact that they don't have their go-to meals, those quick meals that you can get when you're hungry, when you're pressed for time, and it's going to fill you up and make you feel great, right?
Absolutely.
When you don't, when you're not from that eating plant-based, it becomes hard to find those things. So for me, it was all about me being able to find those foods that agreed with my body, those foods that I enjoyed eating, and those foods that were nutritious. And once I started doing that, I developed a nice go-to menu that I can have, and then I just expanded from there. But now I enjoy it. It's the relationship with the food, it's the taste, it's the smells, it's the colors, it's all those things. And when you learn to put your foods a certain kind of way, it just makes it that much better.
What was on the go-to menu at first? What were the early go-tos?
I'm Indian, like Trinidadian, East Indian food. That's what I started to eat. I started to eat a lot of Indian food just because of the fact that the Indian food had a lot of great flavors, and they had the most diverse vegetarian, vegan platter that a cuisine, I should say, that really had everything that I liked as a meat eater, right? I like the flavors, I like the seasoning, I like all those different things. And the Indian food, they had all of those things. It had the spices and all those things. So I didn't feel like I was, missing anything as far as the flavors are concerned when it comes to not having meat.
No, man, and that Indian food, man, that will fill you up too. I mean,
Yeah,
you
it
are not
does
going to
fill
be
you up.
hungry eating that.
Yes,
Mm-mm.
exactly, exactly.
All right, and real quick before we talk Umbo, what are the like must-haves right now in your pantry? If somebody were to open up Rashad Evans' pantry, what are they always going to see in there, man?
Oh man, you're gonna see some nuts. Some nuts gonna be in there. You're gonna see some spirulina. You're gonna see some chlorella. You're gonna see those little kale chips too. Like
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I like those too, man. I like the snacky food, but I like to just have some greens too, just some straight greens, and you know, either I can put them on a sandwich or put them in a wrap or something like that. Just something very simple. I try to and fruit is probably like my go-to when it comes to being able to get that that feeling of just having great energy, having that carb rush, having those clean sugars, those bioavailable sugars, the bioavailable glucose and stuff like that. So those are my
gotcha.
go-tos.
You still snacking on straight spinach? You still reach into the bag and just pop a handful every now and then?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing about it: like I, I, I like that because it keeps my taste buds um, in that enjoying a plant-based taste. Because the thing about it is, if you start eating foods with too much flavoring and too much of everything else except for that natural taste, you find it hard to enjoy the taste of just the plants and just it as is. And I felt like one of the biggest transitions for me was just enjoying that taste without anything on it, just enjoying that taste.
Yeah, I'm going to isolate that clip and I'm going to play that back because that is so true. I mean, the more salt and oil and sugar, refined sugar you add to stuff, like the more addictive it becomes. And that's why
Yeah.
your taste buds change. Your brain just loves that stuff. And it's such a hard habit to kick. But one thing you did not mention in your pantry, but I assume they are definitely more than one kind in your fridge, is mushrooms. And I know
Oh
you are a
yeah.
huge mushroom guy now with Umbro. How did you really develop this love of mushrooms?
Yes, I definitely keep some mushrooms. Lion's mane is one of my favorite to cook up. It tastes. If you are somebody just changing over to the meat and you miss the things like seafood and you miss all chicken and all those things, lion's mane is that transitional taste for you because you can do anything with lion's mane. But mushrooms are very good. Umbo to me is a project of love, and it really, you know, um, signifies something that helped change my life, which is the mushrooms in general. Once I transitioned out of mixed martial arts and I retired, I fell into the gray. I fell into that gray depressive zone.
And I didn't know what was next for me and how to transition from there. And one of the biggest things for me to be able to get my mind right was just to start feeling right. And when I started to do the functional mushroom program, taking the lion's mane, taking the cordyceps, taking the turkey tail, taking the reishi, my body started to change. My body started to feel a lot better. And neurologically speaking, I felt as if like my mind became a lot sharper, and even my reaction time as far as being an athlete and still training doing mixed martial arts, I felt like I was able to get that reaction time that I felt like I was starting to lose as I was getting older. And I was so blown away by this. It was just like, dude, I gotta be able to. I want to speak about this. I was burning up about it. I want to shout it from the rooftops about it. So me, Jake Plummer, and Dale Jolly, who is the quarterback of all this, and who really brought me and Jake together, we decided to make a functional mushroom company. Jake was also had a lot of great benefits from using the mushrooms, and he kind of had a similar story than I did as far as like trying to find himself and trying to find that place of peace. And mushrooms gave it to him.
And let's talk about, yeah, that's former NFL quarterback Jake the Snake Plumber. For those who aren't familiar, and so let me ask you about the specifics that come with the benefits for athletes and Umbo, because I know that with that you have some combinations up there that help athletes with rest and relaxation. You have others that are geared toward performance. How do you kind of like tailor make these mixtures? Because I think you have bars and you have tinctures. You have all kinds of things up there.
Yeah, so we have a few different modalities, and we have a bar which has like 2,500 milligrams of turkey tail, reishi, lion's mane, and cordyceps in it, and shiitake, and that's a powerhouse in itself. In a mushroom bar, it tastes great. I know you think a mushroom bar, what? That's got to taste nasty, but I'm telling you, it tastes better than probably any candy bar on the market. Take my word for it. You got to try it. And then you got the play and you got the pause. And primarily, what we were thinking with the play and the pause and the pro and recovery was we wanted to simplify it. We wanted to make it so that it wasn't so hard for the consumer to understand. Okay, when should I take and how should I take these and what work together and what ones don't work together, and kind of go from there. So when we came with our formulations, we decided that, okay, these mushrooms go together and these mushrooms go together. But when you have the lion's mane, you're looking for cognitive function, but it also helps with the blood-brain barrier of the stomach. And then you have the turkey tail, which is great for your stomach bacteria, healthy, good stomach bacteria, but it also helps with that stomach brain barrier, and is really good at there's been a lot of studies with that and cancer and the benefits that it has. And you know it's been having good results with people who have chemo, as far as like helping them get their appetite back and help their stomach get the proper enzymes in it, so that way it's able to break down a food and they're able to get the nutrition that they need after they been in the chemo and things like that. So it's been good like that. The cordyceps is really good for your respiratory health, and it's good for your cognitive function as well. But it's also good for your brain, and they're doing a lot of studies with that, and just brain trauma with CTE and things like that. Then you have reishi, which is really good for your rest and relaxation, because you it, we don't talk enough about how important recovery is, but recovery is just important as the effort that you put out. Recovery is almost sometimes more important, because if you can't recover, then there's no way that you can push yourself.
Have you thought about working at all with maybe the NFL or the NFLPA or any other pro sports leagues where concussions are so prevalent and brought some of this science and your product to them?
Yeah, we're in talks of working with them. We were in talks of working with the UFC and just trying to figure out something that we can put together to help their athletes out. It's a learning curve, and being being early in the market as far as knowledge is concerned on the mass level. There is some growing pains with that, and growing pains with closing that gap when it comes to having people understand the information that you're bringing across. But you know, where we understood taking this position, being one of the first out and stuff like that, we understood that we're gonna have to teach, and we have to understand that this is part of the process. So we're working with these agencies, and we're trying to really, shout from the rooftops about the health of it. But the biggest thing with the mushrooms, and a lot of people sometimes are like, yeah, I tried mushrooms and it didn't really do anything for me. But whenever you take in something like mushrooms, it's the accumulative effects when you really start seeing the benefits. Like if I told you to eat a salad and you start, like if you're concerned about the salad, you eat a bag of spinach, you're like, oh, I don't really feel anything. But it's a consistency of doing it that you start seeing the gains, and once you get on the other side of it, you start feeling better, because these are adaptogens, and these adaptogens, they give everybody what they need, specifically what's going on in their body. They balance the body out. They bring the body into homeostasis.
All right, and everything that's up on getumbo.com right now, not everything is 100% vegan. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, not everything's 100% vegan. We do have a just as far as the bar is concerned. We have a bar that has non-dairy in it, but the other bar does have dairy in it. So you can take a look between that.
Gotcha. But the other things, the supplements, that should all be good to go. The tinctures,
That's
I would
all.
imagine, good
Yeah,
to go.
the
Yeah.
tinctures are good to go. The capsules that we have too, because we have Michael Rise and a Michael Rest, and these capsules that we have, the Michael Rise and a Michael Rest, those are really good too. If you want a pre and a post workout, these are absolutely amazing. The cordyceps, when I just fought, because I retired in 2018, but I came back. I came back one more time, and I fought for Habib at Eagle FC, and that was in 2022, and I couldn't have done it without the Michael Rise and the Michael Rest, because the Michael Rise gave me that extra push. The Michael Rise allowed my body to feel absolutely amazing, and the rest allowed my body to just truly um, get at a level of recovery that I wasn't able to get without it. I'm talking about the fact that I couldn't, my sleep was bad, but I found myself with the Michael Rest taking it. I would sleep all the way through the night. I would even start dreaming again. It was a beautiful thing, and it made me look forward to actually getting rest, because my body felt good doing it.
And final question for you is, now you've got this way of eating the plant-based diet. You've obviously incorporated the mushrooms. How different does the future look to you now versus when you were still an active fighter eating the way that you used to? I would imagine that you're looking at life through a much different set of glasses these days.
Oh, much different set of glasses. The way I'm feeling right now is absolutely amazing. I feel as if like I pulled off 20 years off the clock. I feel like 20 years have just been just wiped off the clock, just basically because of the fact that my body feels so good. And here's the thing about it: because it feels so good, I got to kind of be careful, and I say that because it feels so good. I do things and be like, what, maybe I should kind of slow it down a little bit, because I feel so good, right? But I am 43 years old. I am 43 years old, and I do have to remember that, and I do have to treat my body accordingly. But for me, now it's just about just taking care of my body, and now I know how to do it, because I feel like that's one of the biggest things that we preach at Umbo is taking your health back into your own hands. And I feel a lot of people need to do that. It's not to, take away the power from the doctor or your healthcare provider by any means, but it's to become an expert of your body yourself, because you already are. You already know how your body feels. You know your body better than anybody. But there's an extra step. There's a conscious step with it. And the conscious step is paying attention to what you put into your body. Because when you start paying attention to what you put into your body and you start being conscious of what you put into your body, it changes your consciousness all around. And that consciousness is an upgrade that just has a ripple effect across your whole entire life.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, man, I've just had the biggest joy talking to you for the past half hour, and I wish you had some umbo on you now to reach out the window and give to that truck driver that's honking that
Oh
horn
my
like he
gosh,
needs to chill out, man.
bro. We're in Miami traffic, and we're just coming back from Fleet Week, with the military, spending some time with him doing a seminar, and man, it's Miami traffic, so he's getting crazy.
I got you, man. I got you, man. But look, dude, this whole half hour has been crazy talking to you. So I really appreciate your time. This has been great. We've got a link to getumbo.com down below in the show description or in the episode notes, or hit it up right now with your thumbs. All good either way. UFC Hall of Famer, Rashad Evans. Thank you, my friend.
Chuck, thank you. I appreciate you, and to your listeners, I wish you the well, and I'll see you at getumbo.com.